the incomparable F-16, an aircraft with an aviation heritage that can be traced all the way to the Wright brothers. Fort Worth became an integral part of that heritage in 1942, and this is the story of that involvement, the story of 50 years of excellence. But our story begins years earlier, in the dark days before the United States entered World War II. In 1939, when Hitler's blitzkrieg was threatening to bring Europe to its knees, it became obvious that this new form of warfare relied heavily on air power for its success. It also became obvious to our government that we had to eventually enter the war if Hitler's conquest of Europe was to be prevented. The Japanese, hungry for the vast natural resources of the Pacific Rim, were posing another threat to world peace. It was against this tapestry of world events that Army Air Corps General Hap Arnold asked Consolidated Aircraft to design a revolutionary new aircraft that was superior to anything flying at that time. Arnold knew that to be successful against the Third Reich and the Japanese, the U.S. would need a long-range weapon delivery system. Consolidated, responding to this need, began modifying an experimental seaplane, the Model 31, into a heavy bomber. This modification evolved into the Model 32, soon to be known as the B-24 Liberator. By 1940, with Hitler's bombers destroying cities all over Europe, the sovereignty of the entire continent was threatened. President Roosevelt, realizing that our entry into the war was imminent, requested that the aircraft industry provide 50,000 aircraft per year. Consolidated, already building the B-24 by 1940, recognized that it was unable to meet its portion of such an ambitious production schedule at the San Diego plant. After negotiations with the War Department, 438 acres of prairie near Fort Worth, Texas was selected as the home of Consolidated's new aircraft assembly plant. so it was that in April of 1941, General Gerald C. Brent from Randolph Field, Texas, turned the first shovel full of earth. As he emptied his shovel, he was heard to say, "Today, we're digging Hitler's grave." The new aircraft plant was the largest construction project ever undertaken in the Fort Worth area, and one unlike any other in the world. The massive $50 million plant, for a time, the largest freestanding air-conditioned structure in the world, was completed on April 17, 1942. The first aircraft was delivered on May 1, 1942, 100 days ahead of schedule. By late 1943, 30,000 dedicated people were working at the new plant, building the B-24 Liberator and C-87 transport. Monthly production peaked in January of 1944 at 230 B-24s and C-87s. B-24s built here were flown in missions all over Europe, eventually bringing the war to Germany and Hitler's front door. Patrolling at sea, far beyond the range of any other land-based aircraft, B-24s equipped with radar hunted Nazi submarines. Their relentless pursuit of these enemy vessels was a significant factor in keeping crucial Atlantic shipping lanes open. Liberators also played a significant role in the struggle to recover the Pacific Islands from the Japanese. D-Day found B-24 bombs pounding the beach at Normandy, paving the way for the Allied invasion. Additionally, the B-24 served in such varied roles as tanker, search and rescue, reconnaissance, and personnel transport. It was also often used to airdrop supplies and reinforcements. The C-87 transport aircraft, a modified B-24, was built concurrently with the B-24 at the Fort Worth facility. The C-87 was used extensively as a long-range, high-altitude workhorse. It carried as much as 6 tons over a distance of 3,000 miles in 10 hours in support of the war effort. Late in the war, the B-32 Dominator went into production. First deliveries were made on September 15, 1944, and manufacturing continued until the end of the war in 1945. 115 Dominators were delivered to the Army Air Force, most of those seeing service in the Pacific Theater. While production of B-24s, C-87s, and B-32s continued, planning and design work was going forward for the massive B-36, based on a design contract signed in November of 1941. The YB-36 prototype first lifted off the tarmac at Carswell Air Force Base in August of 1946. As our first line of defense in the Cold War, this aircraft was capable of carrying payloads of 42 tons, as far as 10,000 miles without refueling. The B-36 was a huge aircraft. In fact, the Wright brothers' first flight of 120 feet was a little more than half of the 230-foot wingspan of this giant. The nuclear test aircraft, an experimental aircraft intended to determine the feasibility of nuclear propulsion, flew in the late 1950s. For a while, engineers considered fitting the B-36 with these huge tractor-type landing gear. The Ficon B-36 carried a reconnaissance aircraft under its belly that could be launched and retrieved from the huge bomber at high altitudes. Although never a production aircraft, the YB-60 was a jet-powered, swept-wing version of the B-36. First conceived in 1950, it made its maiden flight in 1952. In 1954, as the last B-36 was being produced, production began on the B-58 Hustler, the world's first supersonic bomber. With an electronic navigation and bombing system 10 times more accurate than any previous aircraft, the B-58 could fly twice the speed of sound and strike targets with pinpoint accuracy from an altitude of 60,000 feet. This amazing aircraft accumulated 5 national and international awards, including the Blériot, Bendix, Thompson, Harmon, and Mackay trophies. Mankind had entered a new age, and General Dynamics was the leader, paving the way for still more advanced technologies. In 1963, the Fort Worth Division was contracted by the Air Force to convert 12 of the Martin-built B-57B aircraft into reconnaissance platforms. These odd-looking aircraft were capable of flying at altitudes up to 100,000 feet. The changes General Dynamics made to the original design included a new wing and vertical tail assembly, a longer fuselage, and larger engines. Also in 1963, F-111 production began. The F-111 is extremely versatile, being the only aircraft ever used as both a fighter and a bomber. The F-111 is used successfully by TAC as a fighter, while the FB-111, the bomber version, is in the SAC inventory. The F-111 can carry any weapon currently in use by the Air Force. This fantastic swing-wing aircraft was the first operational aircraft to have a wing that could literally change shape in flight. For takeoff, the wings are extended, like a regular aircraft. Then, during flight, they are swept back to achieve supersonic speeds. With its terrain-following radar, the F-111 can literally hug the ground. Flying at 200 feet above the Earth, this incredible aircraft can avoid enemy radar as it closes in on the target. Although production ceased in 1976, the F-111 remains an important part of this country's arsenal. It was used extensively in Operation Desert Storm.
Crossing underneath your nose and escorting you in on the north side.
4, 3, 2, 1. Impact. Okay, check. Okay. Looking to turn right here.
4, 3, 1. See that impact?
Got it.
Okay, coming right.
Okay. Cross plane, looks good.
See what the other guys hit before?
Bulldog, Ruler 71 is shot.
Should be just about in there.
This one's a little sensitive. It's looking good. Coming on in. Better picture there. Coming in.
Ruler 71, you have multiple landings south, 40.
SA2 left. Looking.
As amazing as the F-111 is, it takes a back seat to the inimitable F-16 Fighting Falcon. Publicly unveiled December 13, 1973, the YF-16 made its first, although unscheduled, flight on January 21, 1974, lifting off the ground during high-speed taxi tests. Test pilot Phil Ostreicher adds this bit of first-hand information.
Accelerated very well and was soon seen to be at the 135 knot target level. I raised the nose and the airplane rather abruptly became airborne and immediately went into a very severe pilot-induced oscillation in roll. I could see that there was really no hope of keeping the airplane on the pavement and elected to fly it away because I could see severe damage and possibly total loss of the airplane occurring as it went out into the unprepared surface.
Its first official flight was made February 2nd, 1974. Another memorable event occurred at the end of an air show for the press in an open house crowd in May of 1975. Following a routine touch-and-go maneuver in YF number 2, the right main landing gear wheel jammed inside the wheel well, preventing extension of the gear for landing. After several unsuccessful attempts to free the gear, test pilot Neil Anderson elected to belly land the aircraft on a grassy strip running parallel to the main runway. Fortunately, pilot Anderson was unhurt in the incident. The aircraft also received only minor damage and was quickly repaired. However, YF number 1 replaced it in the Paris Air Show in June of that year. Since that time, the F-16 has remained the premier fighter aircraft in the world, unequaled in performance, quality, durability, and affordability. The F-16 is the fighter of choice for many of our allies. The F-16 performed flawlessly during Operation Desert Storm. Throughout each of these aircraft programs, there is one constant: the dedication of our skilled workforce. By providing the highest quality products, each of the 250,000 men and women who have contributed to our heritage have in turn created a stronger United States, while strengthening the rights of free people throughout the world. Now, as the future holds new and exciting challenges, this same workforce will provide our common vision as we build on our past and explore the possibilities yet to come.